They poured over $20 million into just a handful of races, hid most of it behind deceptive front groups, and quietly turned local elections into battlegrounds over US policy toward Israel. And the most shocking part is, most voters were never told that's what they were actually voting on. This matters right now because this is how foreign policy power enters domestic democracy without open debate. When a lobbying network like AIPAC spends heavily to shape who gets elected to Congress, it's not just influencing campaigns, it's shaping decisions about military aid, war funding, and international law that affect millions of lives and define what the US stands for globally. Now look at what's happening behind the scenes, because this is where the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. At least $22 million flooded multiple Illinois races, much of it routed through PACs with names designed to sound local and progressive, masking their connection to AIPAC. And here's the part most people never see. None of the ads openly talked about Israel or Gaza, even though that was the driving force behind the spending. That's not normal campaigning. That's deliberate obscuring of political intent. And then you look at how the races were structured. Multiple progressive candidates, many critical of Israeli government policy and US military support, were competing against each other, splitting the vote. Meanwhile, candidates benefiting from AIPAC-backed funding didn't need majority support, they just needed division. That's how influence works. Fragment the opposition, flood the race with money, and win with a plurality. But here's the twist that changes everything. In at least one major race, that same strategy failed. Massive spending, fully visible, and voters still rejected it. That moment matters, because it proves something critical. Money can shape the battlefield, but it doesn't fully control the outcome. There are limits. Still, zoom out and the broader pattern is clear. This isn't just about winning a few elections, it's about filtering who is even allowed to be competitive in the first place. Who gets amplified, who gets buried, especially when it comes to candidates willing to challenge US support for policies like occupation, apartheid, and ongoing military operations. If those candidates are divided or underfunded, they can be pushed out before voters even understand what's at stake. Now, defenders will say this is just politics, just advocacy, just free speech. But that argument breaks down when the funding is hidden, when the messaging avoids the real issue, and when voters aren't told that foreign policy toward Israel is a central force shaping their choices. That's not transparency, that's engineered consent. And yet, voters did push back. In key races, they saw through it, they rejected it. So the system isn't fully controlled, but it is heavily influenced. So here's the real question. If powerful lobbying groups can quietly shape elections around foreign policy priorities without ever saying it out loud, what does democratic accountability actually mean anymore? And what happens when these same strategies scale up into national elections?